Welcome in Fresh Talks Global Vision. My name is Rhonda, and I'm ready to uh, keep bringing in mindset matters to heart. We've had some great conversations, and most of them have been around stories around where we're feeling like I just couldn't get to that next level, or things that get in the way. Uh, Examples, testimonials of different ways of looking at things. It's been really, really fun. We've been doing this for about 4 months now. I was looking back and it's something that happened organically. I just kind of wanted to play with this. And I thought, how can I get closer to our humanity project? The one that we're talking about, what we call hashtag speaker locking arms. I work with so many speakers. So it was a logical thing for me to say speaker, but with the locking the arms. But if you're out there, going to the grocery store, talking to people, or you're learning to open up your vocals, this is really about stopping the blaming and the shaming. And how can we make human, human life more palatable for those people that are seeking it? There's so many people that are scared. We're not going to be able to save everybody. And I don't know if it's a saved kind of right word anyway, but we're really here together to be able to partner with as many people that we can. We're getting about 62,000 views as of today, and I'm really, really proud of that. So anytime you use that hashtag, I will be so happy. Today, we have Lilian Sue. Lilian, I'm sorry, I got confused. Am I using your last name, Sue? Because right now I see Lilian, but I want to make sure I'm connecting you with how they can connect with you on social media, emails, things like that.
Yeah, using my last name is fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we had a whole conversation about like what's email, but anyway, that was in the green room. We need to talk about that. Anyway, so let me introduce Lilian. I This is our second interview, by the way. So I want to share something with you. Sometimes when we do stuff, things just don't turn out. And I know that when you first start doing this kind of stuff, it can get overwhelming when you're trying to connect virtually or anything in life. And you feel like it's a really big failure because sometimes you're affecting somebody else and it's not just about you. And you can kind of keep it quiet and work through it on your own. When you start partnering, you start recognizing that you have to learn to use your vocals and not be ashamed about it. So we interviewed and I lost the recording of what we did. So we're here in part two. Okay, so Lillian's bio. As a PR coach and publicist, Lillian is in the storytelling and relationship building business. She empowers creative entrepreneurs and coaches to unlock the superpowers behind their stories and gain the confidence to push past fear and anxiety to harness the power of PR to achieve their goals. Lillian, I love PR. I love understanding those angles because I only knew what I knew from like how I wanted to share things with people. But when you start really looking at the outside world and what's going on and a way to really connect with people, it starts opening ourselves up to, really what it looks like when you're out there and wanting to shine. So I love that we're going to be talking around this power of PR and mindset around that. Through one on one coaching, she gives her clients the personalized support, clarity, and guidance they need to build and launch successful PR campaigns and strong mindsets. Okay, one more thing before I start this conversation with Lillian. There are some stories that you're going to really love. I just kind of want to set this up because I want you to be aware of some of the things that you're going to hear in our 30 minutes together. Listen to some things that you get stuck in when you have people around you that just don't believe in you, so that you can lean in on what this conversation really is. Like, how can we break through those things so that we can get to what our goals are, what's been stopping us? And so welcome in, Lillian. I can't wait to have this conversation again, part two.
Thanks for having me again, Rhonda. It's great to be here.
Well, I just can't believe you're here. I was like, oh, Lillian's going to say, oh my gosh, I'm too busy. And then, but you are a very nice person. So I think you got to put your hand to your heart and said, oh shit. Okay. I'm just kidding. I'll be here. God dang it. Lillian, what, what brought you here? Like to where you are today, you seem like a very strong spirit. Like you feel to me like you're really in your power of strength of what you're doing. What are some of the breakthroughs? What would you like to share to get our community connected?
Um, I think it really comes down to a couple of different sort of tipping points in my life, both personally and professionally. I just want to start off by saying that on a personal level, I'd say resilience has been a part of my life since before I was old enough to even know what that word meant. Probably because of the circumstances of how I was born. Suffice it to say, if I wasn't willing to fight at that time, I probably wouldn't be here.
Wow.
There weren't too many babies in the late 80s that were born over 3.5 months premature and who spent 5 months in the NICU, right? Who would come out and, have to then learn how to manage things like getting specialized physiotherapy, being given things like specialized scissors growing up because it's like, oh, we don't know if I can use the regular ones, all the way to, so everything physical for me has always been a battle, right? Physical education in school was a battle, right? My classmates would go run for 30 minutes, I'd get the bike, you know, stuff like that to really kind of figure out how to carve out my part in life and where I belonged, and a lot of that also resulted in pushback from home. Like I wasn't being born in a first generation Chinese immigrant family. I'm the first generation Canadian. A lot of pushback, a lot of generational trauma, a lot of cultural barriers. What I wanted to do in my life, whether it was a hobby or to what I wanted to do for a career, was never supported, right? I, according to my parents, was supposed to get the degree, work for a company for 40 years, get the pension, and then you're financially stable. It's fine, right? But my entire life, I never saw either one of them once truly enjoy what they were doing,
Mhm.
truly want to grow in their careers or anything like that. They'd come home and they'd be miserable, and there was no concept of having a work life balance, prioritizing your mental health, figuring out what actually would bring you joy.
Mhm.
So, honestly, when I decided to figure things out and go, I want to build a business, I honestly started because I was a college student looking for paid internships. And I always thought that in order to for people to hire me, they had to see what I could do. So I needed to build a portfolio. So how do you do that? I went about back in the day cold calling and cold emailing 40 plus companies a day just to see who was going to give me a shot. Found a fantastic marketing agency that brought me on and gave me the opportunity to learn how to write copy for all of their clients and do the social media and everything. In a roundabout way, I got back in touch with the agency owner. She's still running the agency today, and it's been almost 20 years. And I really owe her a lot for giving me that opportunity. But, that was a decision that I chose to make because I wanted to do something different. Everybody said to me, "Oh, are you going to teach?" Because I was doing an English major, but I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Tack on the communications major, and I thought, I have loved storytelling my entire life, but this was pre self publishing. So I didn't think I could make a living writing books. So I thought, how can I translate that love of storytelling into helping other folks get their stories out there? So that's how all of that started. And then people came to me and said, "Is public relations something you do? I've got news I want to share. I'm just releasing something. Is that something you do?" And, at the time, I thought, I'm at a bit of a crossroads. I don't want to be telling these great people no anymore. So that was one of the things that was important to me. B, On a personal level, I had just gotten engaged. We were wedding planning and we were moving at the
Mm.
time. So there was a lot of upheaval personally. And then C, I was just in the middle of a year in my business where I felt like I was making a lot of mistakes. I didn't make any money in an entire year, like nothing. So
Oh.
I thought, what can it hurt for me as we're moving anyway? What can it hurt for me once we get home to figure out who I can cut my teeth with in public relations to continue to be of service to my clients? So that's what happened. I hopped on with a couple of agencies. I started fell in love with doing PR for indie film and television, especially, but like food
Mm.
and beverage is part of it, tourism and hospitality was part of it. And like I started branching out and doing it on my own. So that was kind of like the second major sort of crossroads moment surrounding my business where it's like, do I still want to keep doing this? And
Yeah.
if I do, how can I change directions? And then the last major one actually came just before the pandemic. I
Mm.
had a full time opportunity fall apart on me, to which I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to devote myself wholeheartedly to my business again. Not going to close the door completely to going in house, but it's going to have to be something really, really good. I'm not going to waste my time feeling misaligned anymore because it doesn't feel good to me. And at that time with my business, it was like, okay, I've gotten to this point doing what I do, but I don't want to be 65 and just a service provider. God willing, I even get to 65, but if I do,
Yeah.
I don't want to be just a service provider. So that's when I said, I'm burnt out, I'm unhappy, I don't want to follow the industry status quo anymore because I have no desire to build an agency. I need help. And that's when I made the decision to invest in business and mindset coaching. Through the business coaching, that's where I came across the idea of why not try PR coaching? Because my
Hey,
business,
Lilian, I want you to finish that story. Can I
yeah,
ask you a question? I think
sure.
it's the pivotal point with you wanting to ask for help.
Hmm.
How did that feel for you? Was there any specific that happened for you that you realized, here, wait, I need to be asking for help? And how'd that feel too?
It honestly, it was just I was really tired. I was at a point in like my health journey where it wasn't until 4 years ago that I came to the realization that my anxiety was triggering my chronic illness. So I was not in a good spot. Like I kept having flare ups and everything, losing sleep, spent a lot of nights in pain.
Mm.
And it was like, I'm not happy. And the experience I just came out of told me that, going in house for a full time employee position is not where I need to be either. So I need to figure this out. And as luck would have it, at the time, there was two people. There was a business coach and there was a mindset coach that were in my social media audience. And we started talking, and I really gelled with who they were. And I invested in the business coach at the time had a group coaching program. I invested in the one-on-one with the mindset coach. With the business coach, she said, you have all of these years of experience and knowledge and campaigns you've done and everything.
Mhm.
She said, and there are people that have been coming to you that say, I want to work with you, but I can't afford a campaign.
Yeah.
So she said, there is a way for you to bridge that gap. Have you considered coaching? And when I started thinking about it, I'm like, okay, I've been in this business long enough to know when there are patterns presenting themselves in how potential clients have interacted with me or the agencies that I've worked with. And the patterns I saw were a lot of fear, a lot of
Mhm.
anxiety, coming at it from a scarcity mindset. They had really unrealistic expectations on, I want guarantees on results and where my money's going. I understand that, but when you are walking into a campaign or a situation that requires of you to share who you are and your story and why it matters and the impact you want to make on an audience, that desperation you have to continue to sell is not what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So for people that are, so I noticed those patterns with the people that were approaching me and my agency colleagues. And I thought, okay, coaching is a way for me to address this, to give them this knowledge, this education, and really impress upon them that you don't just listen to anybody who says you need PR. You need to be ready for it. And
Yeah.
this is how you get ready for it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I had to reckon within myself my own mindset because I didn't realize that for years, just like the clients I was trying to help, I hid behind my own testimonials and my reviews and everything because it was like, oh, hey, this, from clients tells them these are the results I get for them. That should be good enough. Come work with me. When in reality, it's like, wait a minute. There's thousands of people in every single market that do what I do.
Yeah.
So what if, like, yeah, great, I got this client this interview, but what makes working with me different? And I had to reckon with, that fear and that anxiety that I had over what I perceived, like a fear that I had over a perceived lack of control that I would have if I put more of my story out there,
Yeah.
right? And, I was obsessing over like every response to content I put out there. Why aren't people responding? Why aren't people signing up for these things? And it wasn't until I did the mindset work with my coach and she, we walked through it and everything. We're doing meditation, we're doing hypnosis, that I realized that my desire for control came from the fact that as a child I had no control. Everything was being dictated towards me. Everything was being, and then I was being called ungrateful for not wanting to embrace what someone else put out for me because of course they know best, I know nothing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I had to recognize that, and then through a breakthrough EFT session, I mentioned this to you in our first conversation, I was able to come to terms with the fact that as a kid, I did the best that I could to survive with the limited knowledge and resources that I had. And I had to learn how to forgive myself for not being able to do more. And once I was able to do that, everything changed. The monkey fell off my back. I'm happy going to work now. You know, I have that freedom to say to myself every time I say to my clients, hey, look, those numbers on social media you're fixated on, that's the wrong thing to be fixated on. Why? Because if you are speaking to the right people, they are the ones that will respond. Those are the folks you should be focusing on so long as you are willing to do whatever you can to get in front of them. Everybody else, that's just white noise. Either they're not your audience at all or they're not ready to hear what you have to say. And as you know, Rhonda, in this line of work, when you tell people the work that they have to put in with their mindset and with their business and their PR and their marketing strategies, if they are not ready to hear it. If they're not ready to put that work in, these epiphanies are not something you can drag them kicking and screaming to. It just doesn't work.
I know. And Lillian, I want to ask, kind of hold that space just a little bit moment back to what you were talking about is when you're starting to talk to somebody about, okay, so you're getting this many likes. I know you're expecting such and such amount of likes. Let, let's don't talk about that part. Let's talk about your mindset, how you show up, you know, where can we grow so that you actually know that you're truly being yourself as much as you can be at that point. And I feel like people have really realized there's a lot of exposure, and so it's hard to be themselves. And so they just look at the numbers and say, okay, what can I tweak? What's somebody else doing over there that's getting this much? And so it becomes a game. So what you're saying is, let's stop the adrenaline, you know, like the rush of like, I like myself, I don't like myself, I like you know, because of all the likes and whatever. What is it the hardest thing that you're finding, like that pivot to get them to feel it, like authentically get ready for a deeper mindset conversation and to not be all out there hoping, you know, to get this and that and doing all these kind of crazy things, and really in the darkest hours that is when their work is really being done, and what happens on the translation when they are creating content out there. So what's that pivot point, or what do you see people struggling with when you're talking to them like about this or about that stuff?
The biggest thing is like I think they fear being able to express themselves authentically because they fear the reaction to the results of their own introspection. And I think it really comes down to that because so many of us were not supported growing up. A lot of that fear and that anxiety comes from the fact that we were not supported. We didn't, for myself on a personal level and a professional level too, I've had to work really hard to find my people. Why? Because at a very young age, I learned my parents are never going to be who I need them to be mentally and emotionally. So in that sense, I grew up sort of as the black sheep. Similarly with my peer groups, right? I floated. I call myself a social floater
Yeah.
when I was still in public school
Hmm.
because the people that really resonated with me, I had to wait until university to find, right? So I think for a lot of people, particularly creative entrepreneurs, everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants to be accepted, right? So they fear that when they get to and sometimes it's funny because I come across a lot of folks who are like, well, I'm fine because I am sharing this stuff on video. I am sharing this stuff on social media. But it's like if you talk to them about going to the next level, about say sharing it in an interview, they balk at that. They balk at that, and all of a sudden that feels really uncomfortable because it's like you're getting on someone else's platform. So how much control do you have over your own narrative on someone else's platform when it's not your audience?
Yeah.
That's kind of the most resistance that I see coming in when I speak to clients about this. And what I have to share with them is that, look at it this way. Instead of feeling like you are ripping yourself open for strangers, look at it at a standpoint of you are sharing your story with members of your extended community.
Hmm.
Because when you are going on a platform like this, presumably you all have things in common.
Yeah.
That's why you're on that platform to begin with, right? So
Hmm.
you lean into what that common ground is, and that's how you build that relationship. And when it comes to quote unquote controlling your own narrative on someone else's platform, I always say to them, your story will always be your story.
Yeah.
The reason why you want to get out there and share it is because you don't want someone else to hijack your narrative. So in that, it is always within your control on how much you want to share, where and when you want to share it. Because on these platforms, they're not looking for your life story, right? What they want to know is, how did who you were inspire the journey you've been on to become who you are now? So specifically, since we're talking about PR in the scope of business, they want to know, how did you start your entrepreneurship journey? Where did all of this come from? Where did this genesis, this seed come from? Where did this, for me, for myself, I honestly wanted to do it originally for a portfolio. And then it became about, I want to continue to help people to get their stories out there. And after I did the mindset work on myself, it became more about not just sharing the stories, but empowering especially women in business to fulfill their own, like their fullest potential. Because I believe that nothing holds us back as much as we hold ourselves back.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, we honestly don't even recognize that we're holding ourselves back. And instead, we end up on these vicious cycles, these hamster wheels, where it feels like nothing we're doing is working. And I
Yeah.
know that when I came to that point in my life and my business, that's when I decided to reinvest in reaching out for help, because I said, you know what? I can't do this alone. I can only do so much based on the level of knowledge I have, based on the skills that I have, and based on the time, energy, and education that I have. And I need help to get that impartial third party perspective
Yeah.
that's going to say to me, have you thought about this? And the reason why I love mindset coaching so much is because it gets to the root causes of what's causing all that fear and that anxiety and everything. Counseling is phenomenal for giving you a sounding board in that moment,
Yeah.
and you feel better in that moment coming out of that. But in the long term, for me, and this is why I champion it so much, mindset coaching is really about getting to the root and digging it out by the root
Yeah.
and recognizing, like, okay, that doesn't mean that I'm never going to feel like this ever again. But what it means is that the next time I do, I have the tools and the resources and the help that I need to get through
I love how you're talking about the root. There's just so many fixes, that just you feel great for that moment. You're like, okay, I'm good. And if you don't have something anchoring to hold you accountable, like running a business, and you have this breakthrough and you go, okay, I can see where I'm going. And then you realize you're back to square one because you're not doing your work. You're not doing your mindset coaching. You can claim stuff. I actually, to backtrack a little bit, I did quite a bit of therapy. I was thinking, well, this is going to help me, get through things. I really want to get through things. But when it came to being in front of that person, I was like, how can I trick them? Because I didn't know what the accountability was. How could I prove that I was moving forward? So when I left that door, that room, then I didn't have to share with anybody that I'm changing, because I just thought, oh yeah, whatever that work is, oh yeah, I'm doing better. And so I tell them that, like, so I would just close myself off even more. It put me more in a depression, because now I'm acting as if I'm better, like, oh, I'm better, I'm better. And nothing bad about the therapy. I know people who do therapy, getting great stuff out of it. But I noticed with the getting to the root cause, to me, it's like if you don't work those, then when you are moving forward to your next level in business, that same thing will happen. So if you're fighting with your community about certain things because it just is not in alignment with, with maybe you have the wrong clients because you're not even seeing yourself. So now if you don't get to that root, you're going to keep doing it over and over, and you're going to keep crashing your business over and over. And this is what I like, is what you're talking about, is when you started doing that mindset coaching and realizing, heck, I'm on the hook. So when we're in the latter part of this, but please share any story you want. We're at that point now where we're talking about the route and where you want to take this in, helping people move forward. And maybe that's where we go. Maybe that's the question so that I can connect with how they connect with you. Because we've gone from your story to discovering a year not making any money at all, calling yourself out on yourself in the way of like, every time I'm stressed, I keep getting sick. And you started connecting even deeper about how your body was being affected and maybe how you could get rid of your chronic pains, chronic disease by healing through that mindset. And now we're in this space of, okay, now you're working with clients and how important PR is, but how the authenticity is what really gets them to where they're focused in the right space so they can truly make money. So can you connect me in that last part of these couple of minutes of like where we can pivot in here so that they know where they can catch up with you and some things that you are doing right now so they can kind of see what journey you're doing with clients and maybe new services you're doing, whatever you want to share.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I just released my book back in June. It's actually a multi-award winner now. Just won its second award in the last week. I'm really proud of that. And I released that book, and I'm also offering in the new year going to be offering a new service known as VIP coaching days, where entrepreneurs can come to me for the condensed intensive version of my 8-week coaching program, where we really work on the mindset and the strategy. But I released the book as part of that because so many entrepreneurs in my audience were asking if I had a book, if I would write a book, because they wanted a resource they could always flip through and refer back to.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to create a book that really spoke to the solopreneur, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, the folks that, for the most part, a vast majority of the agencies and everybody leave behind because they don't always have the budgets, right? And my message to so many of my clients is really about not spending the 20, the 30, the $40,000, but instead really getting introspective and granular on what are your goals? Where do you want to take this? How do you want to grow for the long term? And how can we do it in increments so that, if I'm not about to burn myself out and deplete my energy, I'm making sure that anybody who works with me follows that same path, because it's really important to me that my clients are able to launch these campaigns, do the interviews, do the speaking events and everything in ways that still work with their lives. And I don't make guarantees in this line of work. I focus on how can we help you build the relationships so that maybe you're not getting the interview this week, but you'll get the interview next month. And maybe this is such a great relationship that we can keep nurturing it, that every time you have something new to share, we can go back on this platform and you can continue to build a relationship with them, and you can continue to nurture your relationships and your touch points with their audiences to the point where down the road you are launching a major fundraiser, you are launching a major conference. These are the folks that will automatically stand up for you and go, I'll be a sponsor, I'll be your partner, because you already have a relationship with them. And this is what I always try to instill in my clients, that you work with me. I don't promise flash in the pan solutions that will come right away. This is about building a long term growth strategy consistently and sustainably so that your people can always find you, and they will keep being able to do that because your projects are always top of mind.
Mm-mm-mm. I'm seeing I have a link here to them to put in. I love this because I was looking at your book. mean, I love the way your book looks too. This is so cool. It's just so cool. You know, Lillian, I've never heard anybody talk about not promising results. And I love that because I know that when you're working on mindset, when you watch somebody growing and they're like, well, where's the results? It's like, well, no, you're still in your way. I mean, there were some strategies I gave you a bit ago, but you just haven't stepped into them yet. But you're trusting me more, opening yourself up more, so you have a safe space. So it's going to grow. You just need to get out of your way. It's like But I mean, this is a great conversation. Not too many people are having that conversation, and the relationship part. Like I've had relationships for like 10 years that are starting to evolve into something different because all of a sudden world deep personal stuff comes in this situation when you're with and around some more people. So I love your uniqueness and I love the powerful space of being in truth with what you're doing. That's very bold because people want to hide behind their testimonials, what you said.
I mean, results are absolutely a part of it, but it's really
Yeah.
a small part
Yeah.
because it's all a part of the bigger picture of like it doesn't exist in a vacuum, and the success of your campaign cannot happen if, for example, you do an interview and you don't even know where to send people, right? Like you don't have a newsletter set up, you don't have a website set up. Where are people supposed to follow you and be a part of your audience? All of these different things that a lot of people don't spend nearly enough time thinking about, along with the mindset piece.
Yeah. I There was a client that I worked with, and I was just asking her for, like, because we didn't get a lot of results, but her every day there was just like these things that were happening, and she was having these breakthroughs. And so I just went through her book and I just saw all these magical things that she was doing, and how in the coaching we were able to lift that and help her have a better day so she could move things forward. And it was the first time I put something together where it wasn't like, I made this much and I want to work with Rhonda. And it just all of a sudden broke through of like, it started warming my heart. And I know I started having bigger conversations about, oh, you're doing mindset coaching? That's like top notch. You need to make sure you keep talking about that. And it was something that just, I was like, I felt comfortable in my own skin because that's what I was doing, but I wasn't claiming it, you know? Like I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this person grew so much, like now they're not tearing themselves up. And it's like, that's like one of the biggest things. Because you're it's tethering on every single thing in their life. That's worth the coaching to be hanging out with you. So are we sending people to the powerful publicity prescription, that link, or is there another landing page you want to send them to?
They can find my book on Amazon, or they can follow me on Instagram at Lilian Sue, copywriter PR. I'm there 5 days a week talking PR tips and talking about mindset. And yeah, if they want more information about my book, that's probably the best place to get the most updated information, as my website's currently being fixed right now as well. So,
Darn those websites, man. It's hard to keep those things updated as
it's
we
just,
keep growing.
yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like that kind of thing. If you need to do it, it never happens at a convenient time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Lillian, thanks for being with us. I appreciate your mind. I appreciate your stories about being stopped. Like, I want you to go to school and do this, and you're like, you found your way. This really helps our community that's gathering on this YouTube channel, or they're seeing us on social media when we're doing extra posts after this interview too. You really nail it out there in authenticity, and I wish you all the luck. It's just incredible. And if you get a podcast, please think of me. I'd love to hang out with you and talk more about mindset. I appreciate your angle and where you're going with this. So appreciate you, my friend.
I appreciate you too, Rhonda. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Fresh Talks Global Vision. We are on another fabulous time together about the mindset matters to heart. How do you feel when you first came into how you feel now? If you landed here at the Foley end. I appreciate you so much because there were so many nuggets. And if you're coming at the tail end, give yourself time to go right to the front because there's so many great stories that you're going to find within yourself that Lilian talks about. Because even though it may not be specific things that you dealt with, you know there's people that have not supported you, people that think you're crazy, and that's you feel sick because you're sick and tired of resetting yourself to find where you can find peace. This conversation really helps you in those strategies. You want to connect with a powerful publicity prescription. And why you want to is that I know that when I really take a step back and look at the outside scope of where I want to um, where I want to play in my PR, the first thing is to go inside and then look back again outside and make sure that what I'm reporting out there, that it really is me, that it's not flashy and this whole sizzly thing that really deeply doesn't speak to how I speak. So it's kind of complicated. So make sure you connect with Lilian Sue. Appreciate everybody. Thank you. Have a fabulous day. Thanks, Lilian.